wrote in 1989. And it also speaks about alienation. I hope this song would have gone away, but it seems to just be coming back and coming back again. It's a song I call 1990. So from the ghettos of Trinidad to the ghettos of LA, same story. Nuclear warhead, do I see it torn down? And there's an army in retreat. I see the old colonials of Europe now become united. And that word, perestroika, it fills the streets. I see the eagle sitting on the shoulder of the bear. Or maybe it's the other way around. Is this the calm before the hellfire? Or is our tomorrow really heaven bound? But 1990, the blood still flows in Bogota. And from Beirut to Johannesburg, the river don't stop. 1990, third world children still wander in their boats, in their jungles, in their deserts, until they dry. It is strange. The more we change, the more we rearrange. Everything just seems the same as we move into the next century. 1990, please make a liar of me. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. There is a black man on the run through a lonely Beijing street. There he goes. My God, he's running again. This time through Brooklyn, Howard Beach. And there he runs again through the streets of Soweto and Bensonhurst. And I'm saying, Lord, so the story goes. And the ghostly man from the past, they call him Selma, Alabama. He just shrugs and says, deja vu, I suppose. 1990. Will our children stand firm? Or will they keep a running and a running and a running till the end of time? 1990. Will hands of love ever reach out? Or will they be there just to strengthen the crime? It is strange. The more we change, the more we rearrange. Everything just seems the same as we move into the next century. 1990, Please make a liar of me. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. And ba di bi ding ba ma ding ba ma ding ba ma do. Wanna be the one. Ooh. LA's burning down. It reminds me of Harlem and what's in the 60s. Same problem, same country, and King. King is still the name. People shouting power, power to we the people, and equal rights and justice is still the game. I remember over 25 years ago, America stood up and said, this won't happen no more. Now you tell me, what have we become? The beast always defeat the beauty. Is this land just another house of the rising sun? 1990, will we see a tomorrow where our children will truly be free? 1990, is it joy, is it sorrow? As we move into the 21st century, I'm saying it is strange. The more we change, the more we rearrange, everything stays the same as we move into the next century. 1990, make a believer of me.
David Michael Rudder, 1990. Written and sung almost 40 years ago. The more we change, rearrange, everything remains the same. In Guyana, as it is in the rest of the world, so says the musical philosopher of our Caribbean. Dr. Henry Jeffrey, as you notice, is on. His background is in dark because his current, as we see, is gone. So he's using backup technology. I had some difficulties getting started because of some power problems there, but we're on. Dr. Jeffrey has switched to, I think, solar. I managed to get the stuff sorted out. But here we are. Good evening to you and welcome to Politics 101 on a Tuesday evening. We're still early in the week and things are heating up. Lots of activity today. Lots of activity in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We'll talk to Dr. Jeffrey about some of that. Dr. Jeffrey, good evening to you.
Good evening, David. I'm glad to see you. I thought it would not have been possible.
And of course, the last time I saw you in person, we were celebrating your birthday. As they say,
yes, of course.
Your birthday. Let me, on behalf of the Politics 101 family, wish you a happy birthday and as we say, hope you live to see many, many, many more. Let's let's start off this evening because we don't know how long we will get to run. But let's start off this evening. There have been lots of lots of activity around Mohammed. You have made it very clear what your position on the emergence of the Mohammed, um, now called WIN, but we have seen lots of activity, um, lots of quarrel over the symbol. Now we are seeing the Americans are getting involved. Um, the lobbyists of Guyana sending emails and so on to US Congress people, the linkage of Mohammed to Venezuela, the coursing down of Mohammed in the PPP stronghold. Do you still hold to your original thesis regarding Mohammed?
Of course. Of course. And you must note too that Mohammed has now joined ANOG. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
So yes, of course. I've seen nothing. All of the things that have happened to Mohammed, the PPP could have arranged. Even the one, if you ever heard of a policeman shaking a man's hand and being sent to a leave, you ever heard of that, or sent into the interland to some other place? You ever heard of that before?
Not before the recent
Well, and you
incident.
think the PPP is as worried about Mohammed as to do that naturally? No, they are building him up. Their
Uh-huh.
job is to build him up and then get him to try to take the African and Amerindian votes you would have had. Yes, that's their
Mhm,
job. You know,
mhm.
I mean, remember, I said it's astro surfing from the day one, and nothing has changed to change my mind.
Nothing has been changed to change your mind. Let's talk about Anok because you had something with early the early beginnings, the start of
Yeah,
Anog.
yeah,
In a surprising move, Anog has decided to join with Mohammed. They say it's a collaboration, but I'm wondering if it's a collaboration, you accept the name, you accept the symbol. Is that not subsuming rather than thing? And immediately we see two founding members,
yeah,
Ralph Ramkaran and Timothy Jonas,
yeah.
exiting the party. Put that development in context for us.
Well, I think these people are lawyers and they are international lawyers and all of that. And they are politicians of some repute and reputation. I think they will find it difficult to join with somebody like Mohammed, who is tainted from the legal standpoint. He's definitely tainted. You have the biggest country in the world saying that Mohammed is involved in all manner of story, drug trafficking, God knows what, money laundering, almost everything you can think of. The story for me is that I would I would have nothing to do with Mohammed either, because I'll say it is a rudeness kind of thing for you have a country like America, not under the Trump regime, by the way, under the former regime, who said they have spent some 2 years doing investigation and so on, and that the PPP was doing nothing about it. What the PPP is doing to Mohammed now is not, they have to do. They have to do because the Americans are on the case. And if you heard the president the other day, they're talking about, oh, yes, we will save Guyana because the Americans are with us and all of that. You will know that they have to do it, but they have had to do it all the time. Remember, they turn up with 8% for the public servants and then had to turn to 40% for the ones with they had to do it. And that is why you all also saw that when the Biden administration lost, they put up big signboards supporting, agreeing at this situation because they were under severe pressure to democratize and do things by the Biden administration. So nothing has happened to change my mind from that scenario. They had to do something about Mohammed because they asked for information. The Americans give them the information. They had to act. And if you have to act on a friend, well, therefore, the only way that possibly Mohammed can, for instance, gain some sort of credibility is to run back, is to be in politics, and to go in politics, he can go in a way that helps the PPP, and that's precisely what he's doing. That's my take.
So if we were to agree with your thesis, clearly the PPP has a strategy of how to deal with the Mohammedans. I have been moving around a bit here on the East Coast and in Georgetown, and a lot of people share your thesis on the Mohammeds. If you were to advise the APNU coalition, what would you suggest the strategy to the Mohammed should be? Because while there's a clear strategy on the PPP, from the PPP side, one doesn't get the sense that there is certainly in the open space a clear strategy from APNU. What would you advise?
My position on Mohammed, that I would just leave him alone, but make sure that my people know clearly what his motives are, and what that is. What else can you do? Regardless, by the way, if that was his motive or not, that is the most likely outcome. The most likely outcome is finding if he's not going to get a whole lot of PPP votes. The PPP can set up people to disrupt and all of that, but they are setting up to disrupt to sell you that Mohammed is good, not to sell that. And you are buying. If you want to buy it, buy it. So that's why I said everything that has happened to Mohammed, the PPP could have done. And we live in the era of astroturfing. And that's what you do. You got some people without any support whatsoever, and because of the media, and particularly if you have money, you can sell them on the media having all this great support. Mohammed looks like he's getting more press coverage than you.
That is perfectly true.
And we know who controls the media in Guyana. For the most part, he's getting more press coverage. You can't be that, man. In any case, it doesn't matter what he was doing. He's not helping you. That is this.
By not helping you, Dr. Jeffrey means he's not helping the APNU. And, and lots of you share that view. Mandy is saying here, Dr. Jeffrey, you're correct. Colin, of course, said it very early. The analog of today is not the analog of 5 years ago. What would have driven, I think the people in analog are mostly young people. What would have driven them in the direction of?
Well, for me, remember, I was one of the first people with analog too. And Terence was there too, Campbell. So I got, you see, I hold to certain what I'll call political values. When the first thing that made me stop particularly dealing with ANOC, since it's years now, 4 years, is essentially when ANOC was the first party, how they got into it, to come out and say that the chair of GCOM has no authority to deal with the fraudulent votes that were around. I can't remember anybody saying discuss it in ANOC or nobody, but there it was in the press. ANOC says the chairman had no thing. Of course, the Chief Justice changed that later. Said that the GCOM should have dealt with all the issues before calling any election. And then after they do it, a few other people do what they establish news carriers and out and said these that Anok said so, and then the next thing you know, the GCOM chairman said it. She didn't say it first. I have it chronologically down. She didn't say it first. So effectively, that says to me, how am I gonna say this? I mean, all international things said that GCOM must deal with all issues surrounding an election before you call it. Once you call it, you gotta go to petition. But you got to deal with all the issues around it. I put it on my website. Maybe it's still there. I said, this is nonsense. You got to have that sort of a thing. So that was my first thing with Anok. And then, of course, you know, they went and take the deputy speakership after, without commenting. I mean, even if they didn't want to take it and it's Schuman wanted it, and you should have tell Schuman, no, we are not joining it. And if the law, at the time you might not have known that the law said that the highest party apparently says so, that the party with the highest vote can make their decision what they do. The trouble with, you should have made it public at that point. Because we were walking the streets, you know, I don't walk the streets like great moral people talking about we never take none from the PPP. And you took from the PPP what don't belong to the PPP. So, you know, I mean, yes, well, I mean, that's my point with Anna.
Let's shift to the APNU. We've seen a lot of movement. People leaving the PNC, going over to the PPP. And then we saw some AFC people going over to the APNU. One of them becoming a prime ministerial candidate. We saw Amanza Walton leaving, forming her own party. And today she has joined with two smaller parties. To form a movement to contest the election. Lots of movement. Have you, in your recollection of Guyanese elections starting in the 1950s, has there ever been a time when there was so much traffic going on among
not around election time. Not around election time. I mean, there have always been people changing parties. Remember, at one time, I think around 1983, when the PNC, I think it's just around 1983, when the PNC Congress had about 23, I think I wrote it sometime, 23 Communist Party come in. They look like the PNC are taking over from the PPP. Because 23 communist groups from around the country, Russia, China, all of them down here. And around that same time too, you remember you had the crossing over. And these are of serious party people. Ranjit Chandy Singh was the chief ideologue. You had Harry Lal, he was the he was not a trade union, what was he? Yeah. But
yes, Harry Lal, Gahu trade union.
You had Vincent Tika, you know, these were serious, and they moved over. But I think that they moved over for ideological reasons. It was essentially an ideological movement. Right now, you're not certain what they're moving over, because they're moving over to a dictatorship. If you're going to try, I mean, not Jeffrey said the PPP is a dictatorship, the world says so. The Transparency International just said the PPP has captured the state and doing what they like with it. It's not me. You go at V Democracy says they are an autocracy minus going down the tube. They're almost like Venezuela, I tell you. So when you say you are going to join the PPP, you're joining an autocracy and an ethnic one as that. An ethnic one that has suppressed the people for nearly 20 years. They've been doing it for 20 years. I mean, if you look at as public servant salary alone, I think I made a point. Any public, if you do, all right, let me go this way. When I was minister, I argue against the public service union, and I said to them, you are getting 3.4 times per capita income as the average salary of the teacher. And if you go in the world situation, that is what it is. It's about 3.4 times. If you go in the world today, the average teacher salary, the average teacher would get about $300,000 a month, given not the GDP, the GNI, not the GDP, because I'm saying, all right, Exxon gone with more of it, but the GNI, that what's coming to a public servant salary today might be $300,000 on average, instead of the $120,000 or $117,000. And this been going on for 20 years. 20 years. That's, I think, you and your party, you're fighting for reparations and people get paid back. I think you and your party should fight, and that only happened because the PPP refused to have collective bargaining. You see what went on? After just recently, after Armstrong, they refused to have collective bargaining. Therefore, they robbed the people, and you and your party should take it up and pay back the people the billions that they owe them. They have made impoverished Africans to get them to run to the state they are now, and you and your party should take it on and say, look, we are going to look at this thing back historically, because morally wrong, it was legally wrong to don't have collective bargaining. Not because you got state power, you can determine. No employer, none should be allowed to determine people's salary by itself. First, people get the smallest amount, much less the state that has signed the constitution, give trade union right, and refused to negotiate with you for nearly 2 decades. Somebody got to go and deal with that wage debt. It's a wage debt you owe to the public servants, not the Africans, but to the public servants. It would turn out to be billions of dollars, and pay it instead of wasting time and building all sorts of substandard roads. Pay the people back. If you don't do that, what's going to happen? Anybody that take the state can do what they like, and then they just get away with it. You should be saying that the state owed the public servant an historic debt, and if you come to government tomorrow, you will see that debt is repaid to all public servants. So you see, they could do that essentially, yes, to all public servants, but essentially the African people are basically public servants. They're not got anything else, so they feel it more. And look where they are now. All the technical institutes in the African villages that the PNC had even tried to think, what they do, just let it run to the African people. They run around cleaning drain and all sort of thing. They brought them to what they are now. Guess what? They're scrapeheads.
Dr. Henry Jeffrey here saying it, plain and throwing down the challenge to the parties.
So you are not leader. Yeah. You are.
He's warming me up here tonight.
You are fighting for reparations from slavery since something time, and you got reparations. You got to have right here. The PPP over 20 years have not had collective bargaining and has robbed the public servants of billions of dollars. And you should see that the family whosoever is life, get it back. Get it back.
Get it back, Dr. Henry Jeffrey here. Dr. Jeffrey, from very early, you took a strong stand against the AFC's bargaining tool against the APNU, and essentially against Aubrey Norton and the PNC. Let me make a disclaimer here that I am in favor of the broadest coalition. But I have to ask you, did the AFC overplay sand?
I mean, the OFC didn't know what they're doing. How you were gonna? The OFC is a smaller party. Nobody in Guyana will say you want a 65 seat. You gonna start like that? I mean, whoever tell the AFC that's the way to start a discourse, particularly when it's not on the. You are not at this junction, guy. In history, you're not in there for job for the boys. You should be looking at the bigger picture. At this junction, guy, in his history, you got to do something for the bigger picture. You are living in an autocratic country, a dictatorship that's going further down the tubes. Now you got to stop thinking about job for the boys, because that is all it is, job for the boys. As I said in my if they had 5 seats, they could bring the PNC to its knees if you had the political will. Because the PNC ain't going to win no election by more than 5 seats. And therefore, you have the power to bring them to their knees. And therefore, you can start reasonable, given the bigger picture in front of you. There's a bigger cover. You are talking about you want 65. Well, that's how they start. They came down to about 30 something. But this is not being in some marketplace bargaining. That when you finish buying the thing, you can no, this thing got repercussions for the longest while. I just show you one of them in terms of I think you gotta sit back and look at this and say, this got things bigger than bigger than us. We are not here to get job for the boys. We are here to try and buckle down and see what we can do. What we got to do, though, is make sure that APNU is not in a position to mess around with us and get away with it. But all that is political will. To say, God, get out.
Get out. And I have to ask you the follow-up question. If the AFC overplayed its hand, did they underestimate the resolve of Aubrey Norton? Because, I mean, yes, Corbyn got a lot of stick when he ran in 2006, but I've never seen a single leader in a single party really withstand the kind of barrage that Aubrey Norton has had to withstand since he won the party leadership in 2021. Did the dissidents in the AFC underestimated his resolve?
They might have done, but Aubrey Norton, very few people also in the PNC has gone through his history of problems with the PNC too.
Yes.
So he's got, I mean, yeah, of course, they think they can, you just call an election and then you lose, and here, we want consensus candidate. His party was in this too. We want a consensus. A consensus candidate, you lose the democratic election. The PNC is a democratic party, it's not the PPP, where the leader says something, it's done. The democratic sort. The man won. And if he won, the story done. What if we find that he has shortcomings, and who don't have? All of us have. We got to now sit down and see how we can circle the wagon and make sure that he doesn't behave or do things in a given way. But you can't just come and then you are going to even tell people who are members of the PNC, you could have joined that thing and get and win or lose. Oh, they're consensus candidate. What is this? And we do polls. If you want to do poll for the leadership, you should do it in the first place. There's now party leadership run. I mean, it's all. I don't know. I thought, yes, they will play their hands. They thought that Aubrey would just give in he will give in to somebody down the road. It's nonsense. They're making decisions for the people, for the People's National Congress. They had an election. That's where you tell me you do a poll and you're going to throw out the person who win the poll, who won the elections, and give them a poll. And when you And when you get to the base of it, these people are not telling you nothing serious about Aubrey. They're not saying one day they're complaining when was Granger. Hear them, oh, you can't get Granger to come by Bamba Mali. Now Aubrey going to Bamba Mali too often. But Aubrey been going, I is go Bamba Mali. Aubrey is go Bamba Mali since what's from that is his business. What happens there? What has he done at Bamba Mali? Not talk to working class people and so on. Burnham used to there walking all over the place, any old place he's stopping, all rum shop anyway he feel like. So I mean, it's ridiculous. So no, I've never seen anybody have to go through that. But the man that had to go through that went through a lot in the party already and has the resolve.
As the resolve, Dr. Henry Jeffrey here tonight. It's Dr. Jeffrey's birthday month, although the actual birthday has passed. And I managed to get to the birthday party held at Peasants Lined Up with the masses there. Good evening to all the people I met at that birthday party. And some of you told me your names. And because a week and a half, I forget the names. But you know who you are, all those of you who were at that that party and really had a wonderful time. And as I have said here last night, and I'm saying it again tonight, I wonder about the polls. Dr. Jeffrey just mentioned the polls, and I have not met a single person, including some Indian guy. These the ones who come up and talk to me, who are saying that the PPP should go back into office. I have not met a single what the term they use, undecided voter. Every voter, every person that come up to me, they decide how they vote in. I live at Buxton Line Top, so the cars they pass in everywhere. Then I managed to go there and so on. People recognize me passing the car and they're pushing their fist out the window. Some of them stopping just to shake hand and to see my neighbors. They say, Doc, if all them shout out and stop and think, if all them vote come top, the APN, you gonna get a landslide. But the point is, I asked the question, who do these people poll? Who do they poll? I mean, if you do a random sample of people, I mean,
you don't know who do the poll.
That's it.
Are they saying not credible poll? Who make the person credible?
Yes. So I just want to shout out to all the people I met at Dr. Jeffrey's birthday party, all the, as I said, the Peasants Lined Up massive. Shout out to you all. Dr. Jeffrey, how Nigel Hughes, Aubrey Norton, and myself, we were on a program, Caribbean Tea. And it was mostly about Aubrey and Nigel, understandably so, because they are the principals. But the issue of splitting the vote was raised, and Nigel promptly said that he would not be encouraging his people to attack the APNU. APNU said that they will not encourage their people to attack the AFC. And I took a middle ground because my point is that you have no control over that. And if you're going to have a splintered opposition, obviously at some point, the larger faction in the opposition has to warn against splitting the vote. My party, weeks ago, raised that question about splitting the vote. Is it possible for the APNU to run a campaign without raising the issue of splitting the votes?
But that's not possible. I mean, Nigel must know that. How you going to run any campaign and say don't? That was a mantra of Janet Jackson, as a matter of fact. Every election, Charles, like, she'll finish it. Remember, don't split the votes.
I know that's right.
It's a mantra. How you gonna tell your people don't split the vote? I mean, it don't make sense. You you're saying, I don't know what the reason for saying it. You're saying if you are supporting the PNC, support them and don't split the votes. Story done. I mean, I'm so surprised. One of the persons I think that Nigel, if you go back and read what Nigel speaks to about this system in Ghana, he got a good understanding, more than most. And I'm saying, how then you get involved in this quarrel about couple seats? Who, why? You should be going in there at stage to fight for those things you have written about and says. And that's what you want. You want to get those things done. Once Norton, nobody stop you from them, you get it done. And then perhaps you can even change the constitution to say, look, we will have post-election coalitions. You can even do that. And therefore give your party more space to think by itself. Why you battle with couple position in parliament? No. It makes no sense. I mean, anyway, that's how it is.
But I'm glad you raised that because people have been telling me, and again, these are ordinary people, mostly African Guyanese, but I've talked to some Indian Guyanese, especially in Georgetown, who have come up to me to talk. I would say a good 75-80% of the people who expressed dismay at the AFC tactics, I would say 75%, 80% of them said, Doc, I don't think it's Nigel. Nigel know the issue. It got to be, and they're abusing other people in the AFC. But the point is Nigel should have been strong to overrule the others. I think Nigel's respect among African Guyanese really went up. It could have been that may have influenced the AFC to make the big play. But even at this point where the thing didn't work out, people are not blaming Nigeria. Are you surprised at that?
Well,
I suppose you may be able to.
Yeah, I blame Nigel. The guy is the leader.
Right. That's
one day, Aubrey, I'm going to blame you for WPA, or I'm not going to blame Nigel for what's taking place. But I just told you, if you go and read, I'm not talking about hearsay. Since 2000 and God knows 11 or 12, Nigel saying the right things about this system. How he get caught up like this, I do not know. Mm-hmm. He was saying it. I wrote an article the other day and said he comes closest for all of them, I think, in terms of maybe outside of Oganzai, your person, that have like a clear view of what must go on when you're moving forward. But what is it? What is? I mean, what is? I mean,
yeah. Here's a comment from obviously a young person here. We as young people, we need to hear this man's views more often, please, Mr. Hines. Dr. Jeffries on here every other week, so twice per month, and he has been on here for the last 4 or 5 years. So please visit very often, and you will get Dr. Jeffries' views, you will get other people's views. And I'm very glad you've made that point, this young person here, because I've been telling young people who have been talking to me, look, it is not that you need young people to speak to your issues. Of course, that's important. But it is people who are speaking to the issues that affect you as young people who are part of a larger society. I've never subscribed to this thing about you this and you that, because young people are part of the larger society. Young people must be interested in issues that have to deal directly with young people, but also on issues that have to do with the country, that have an effect on all people. So I'm very glad to that you find an older man's comments that are relevant to what you all young people are thinking. I'm very heartened by that because it's something that I feel strongly about. Dr. Jeffrey, the young people, the youth.
Well, you see, yes, and David, I started politics. I started high level politics at 27. Right. High level politics at 27. You know that I did about. I don't have a thing, but I don't have anything against age people. I used to quarrel about people who used to say Cheddy Jack and all. The first time I had to do it is Port Morant, even where he lived. Where he was born. I said, but wait, you don't judge people by that. You gotta judge them about the quality of what they're saying. And what they, you know, and how they behave. You can't judge Shadi Jagan, he's older, the thing. Yeah, but everybody gets older. I mean, and it takes longer to get older now. But the point is, effectively, what you have to do is try, learn. You think it's two things I go through when you're younger, you go. And people say, where you come from? For start, I was never any member of the PNC and no youth group, nothing. So when I turn up with Dr. Reed and other people used to say, hey, Dr. Reed, we need, he don't say anything about me. All he just say, we need young people and new people. So everybody, you get the message. He never said anything about me. I was there, but I got the message what's happening there because these people have never seen me around. I was never any the young socialist, nothing. I just come one day and got these things. So effectively, you got to take some time, look at the issue, forget the platitudes. The platitudes are all, every party has come up with all the Guyana needs. We all need to be good. This is not church. This is not a church. All of us need to be good, but do you see how many of us are all good? We must operate and love each other. That's church. It's not all nice and so on, but effectively, you got to take into consideration too that structures matter. Structures matter. Structures matter as they are, and structures matter of how they bring you up. I think I tried to make that point in the terms of Trump, the British, and Hitler in last week. I'm saying that you have a situation where the Americans, I don't believe Trump will get through with any autocratization of America, largely because it's 250 years they have been winning in this democracy thing. Britain was trying with it since 12, 15. Now, the Germans, what happened in Germany is not, the Germans never tried to become a democracy maybe 30 years before all of it happened. So you got to put your mind to it and try to learn it. And it's not a matter of who old and young. It's a matter of who got something to say and who don't. Anytime people come and tell you, anytime since then, anytime people start saying, we need young people, they ain't got nothing else to tell you. Or we need old people. They have nothing else to tell you. Nothing else. Because young people and old people is not the problem. It's not the people. The problem in Guyana, as a matter of fact, is the structure of the country and how it is run.
Doc, let me shift to the PPP. A year ago, the PPP was telling us that they're going to win this election easily, and some of its acolytes were saying they're going to get 2/3 the majority. They were boasting about black people going over to them in droves and so on and so forth. Today, the PPP seems to be exposing its own vulnerability, if not more than vulnerability. They're lashing out left, right, and center. They seem, because it is becoming clearer and clearer that they themselves might have been fooled about their own quote-unquote electability to the pinnacle of office with a large majority? Is it that they were fooled, or is it they were depending on the opposition troubles to take the gaze of the people away from them to other things?
Well, first of all, if you're in government or if you are running a party, you'll never say you'll lose.
All right. Yes,
You know,
that's
you
your
start from that. Regardless
Right.
of how bad you think things are going, you will say you'll win. It's so effective if we start from that. And then the PPP, for, as I said, 2 decades, had suppressed black people so much that they impoverished them. They impoverished a whole lot of black people. They make them, they bring their salary and wages to nothing. Look, ACNU came to government. They didn't do the best. They didn't introduce collective bargaining, which I think is the first thing they should have done. But if you go back, they had the wages for public servants was supposed to be something like 6%. And the PPP come, they cut it to 3%, and they increased spending on infrastructure, but double it. Now ask me something. Who works in the public service for the most part, and who get all the companies for the infrastructure? And that's 2020. You're not even go back far. Who does that? But they did this, and they do it over 20 years. So over 20 years, what has happened is people have gotten poor, and people start, disillusioned. They become disillusioned, alienated with the political system. Let me support anybody. But once you get to tell people the truth, once you start telling people the truth on the system, they're not going to vote for no PPP. But Africans shouldn't. Amerindans shouldn't. How long we not saying Amerindian is the poorest people in Guyana? We must be grow up in here. And they're still the poorest people in Guyana. Because they don't have a seat on the table. And you don't even do a disaggregated data to see who is gaining where and what. How you can live in a society like Guyana that got all sorts of ethnic troubles and don't have disaggregated data to say, well, who's getting what, who's not getting what, and just got to sit down and listen to politicians tell you, oh, I'm giving you all I can. But when you go to the data, you see it's not so. If you go, you're going to see how much contract black people getting. And when you give them all these little contracts now, you want to say, oh, there are many more black people as contractors as ever before. But one contractor of the other side can take up where all of them got. One, in terms of value. And you think you're talking to fools. And the truth of the matter is, you have to have disaggregated data to look at what is taking place in Ghana and try to solve it. Of course, the PPP never wanted that. The PPP just wanted to keep you down. And they have succeeded for a lot of things. They have succeeded in doing so by impoverishing people. And that is why I think your party is amply placed to say it clearly to the people, to this country, that you are going to repay the public servants for all the wages that the PPP did not give to them as a result of not allowing them to have collective bargain. And that can be calculated very easily if you want to do it. It's important that it be done. And PPP comes to you every day. Oh, take $5 for health. Take $10 for this. My God, you can't plan with that. You can't plan like that. You should do like what the Surinamese said they're going to do. Every Guyanese, given the oil, should have some kind of money going in his bank, known every month, every single month. You want. We say it's a national wage wage cut, yes, but effectively it is somebody. No Guyanese should go to sleep, to go to bed without food and decent shelter over their heads. And And you can only do that for them if you give them money and so that they're going to learn to spend, save, and do all that the correct things to do. You will always be people going to spend out all and all, but that's not neither nor there. You need a universal basic income in this country. You need it, and if you got to start with the poorest, start with the poorest, and let's have that. Give people a freedom to determine for themselves who they want to vote for, who they don't want to vote for. But what you are doing is you're keeping little money, and every time give them this little, come and vote for me. That is what's happening in this country. You are seeing it. That's why the Transparency International said the PPP has captured the state and doing what they want with it. Not me. I ain't even in transparency here, much less.
Dr. Henry Jeffrey here on fire tonight. On Sunday, the APNU will be launching its campaign at the Square of the Revolution. Come out to the Square of the Revolution. In the communities, there will be transportation for those of you who live far from Georgetown and even nearer to Georgetown. Transportation will be available. The APNU activists in the community will apprise the communities of meeting up spot and driving way spot and all of that. But we are inviting all to come to the Square of the Revolution on Sunday, July 6th, for the launch of the APNU campaign. Of course, the following week, it's nomination day. And then from nomination day, we walk into September the 1st. As I have been saying on this program over and over again, we are doing a couple of things. We are trying to win an election, but we are also fighting to bring credibility to the election because we do not have any guarantee of a credible election yet. Which takes me to my next question to Dr. Jeffrey. Dr. Jeffrey, the Carter Center, the Commonwealth, they're all announcing now that they are coming. They're coming before election day, and they are giving guarantees that they will ensure that the elections are free and fair. Never mind that they made some recommendations after 2020. Not one single recommendation has been taken on board by GCOM. How can the international community guarantee that the election would be free and fair, given the fact that all their recommendations have been set aside by GCOM?
Well, Ed David, my power is going out outside my battery and my computer. But let me tell you this. As if you see me, if I disappear, I disappear.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this. When I read what the Carter Center said, it seemed to me that they are saying they are coming to do a pre-election analysis whether or not the elections can be free and fair.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is so, and I'm not misreading, it's a time for you and your people to be ready to show them that what the PPP is doing in terms of gerrymandering, of all the other things, buying votes, no financial thing about the election thing, using up public resources to promote themselves. So you got a whole lot of work to do here because, yes, they are coming, but you have got to be ready. They're coming to assess whether or not that's what they got to do. They just can't come in one thing. They got to come and assess it, but I think they said that. They are coming to assess the progress for elections in Ghana, something like that. And therefore, it's about time you get your act together, all of you, and go there and say clearly, this election here cannot be free and fair if 1, 2, 3, 4 things that happen.
Dr. Henry Jeffrey, and as you heard him say there, he's on standby power, his battery on the computer. So we will truncate tonight and we'll try to impress on Dr. Jeffrey to come back next week because we missed last week and Tonight he has some energy problems. Dr. Jeffrey, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you, and
we'll
your
talk.
audience, David.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Henry Jeffrey. There, quite a stimulating program tonight. Quite a stimulating program tonight. The analysis on spot, the advocacy on spot, and the marching orders. The marching orders to my party, the WPA, and other parties within the APNU, especially the PNC. We are marching. We are moving on. We are moving on with purpose. We are moving on with purpose. We want to win the election, but we have to still continue to press the stakeholders to ensure that the elections are free and fair. We know the PPP is rigging the system. We know that they have GCOM on their side rigging the election. So our task is to push back against the rigging, but we need to get our voters out as an insurance against the rigging. The PPP must go. They have to go. The PNC said for Guyana to grow, the PNC must go. We are saying that for Guyanese to get what belongs to them, whether it's the public servants, whether it's the underemployed and the unemployed Guyanese, every Guyanese has a right. Every Guyanese has a right in the world's fastest growing economy to be the fastest growing people coming out of poverty. If we solve poverty, we solve a lot. Those of us who are above the poverty line, if more people come above the poverty line, then we are able to save a lot. Think about the mother with 7 kids who is earning $120,000, $160,000. Her salary may take her above the poverty line. But you divide 5 kids. The mother and the father, that is 7. Divide 160,000 by 7, and all of them living below the poverty line. You get 2 income in a family. One earning 100,000, next one earning 120,000. I get 5 picnic. 5 and 2, 7. Put the 2 salary together, divide them by 7, and all of them in that household goes below the poverty line. We'll be talking a lot about how we are going to decrease that. But no, yes, we have said on this program that we have made mistakes during the last coalition government. The different political parties made their play. They made their play. The coalition is not as grand and broad as we expected it to be. But all those things now have to be set aside, and our focus has to be on winning this election. Winning this election. All those who had doubts about Norton's electability, the time for that nonsense is over. Norton is the presidential candidate. Jarrett of Finance is the prime ministerial candidate. The rest of us are there giving strong support to the ticket. We've got to win this election. So all the small talk, all the low talk, all the bad talk, over. We are marching on to Zion. Beautiful, beautiful Zion. We are marching. We are looking to the mountaintop. That's where we aim for. The mountaintop is not physical. The mountaintop is mental and psychological and cultural. We have a lot at stake. I'll see you all tomorrow night for another edition of Politics 101. As usual, we love you. We love you. And we've been saying on this program for the last 5 years, we love you. So we are not waiting for election time to say we love you. As you know, on Politics 101, we say we love you. Tomorrow night, same time, same place, for another edition of Politics 101.